I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Jules Sands. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. We are here to review the movie Burnt Offerings, written and directed by Dan Curtis and written by Dan Curtis and William F. Nolan, based on Burnt Offerings by Robert Morasco, produced by Dan Curtis and Robert Sinner, starring Karen Black, Oliver Reed, Burgess Meredith, who was not really in the movie that much, Ellen Eckhart, Lee H. Montgomery, Dub Taylor, and Betty Davis as Aunt Elizabeth, and edited by Dennis Verkler. Music by Bob Kerberg. Production company Europe Association, Dan Curtis Productions. This budget was $2 million. Box office was $1.56 million. This was released back on August 25th, 1976. God. Okay, guys. So, what did you think of this movie? Alan, you first.
In terms of the canon of Dan Curtis, I think it's aptly named. It's more of a burnt offering of what he normally does. I think there's a lot of surefire tropes here that don't work as well as they should for some reason. The casting is fabulous. I think there's a lot of really solid casting. In fact, it's very melodramatic, but I enjoyed seeing Burgess Meredith perform. I really enjoy watching Anthony James just menace people without any dialogue whatsoever in dream sequences. For those of you that don't know and may have seen this movie, Anthony Davis is the dream chauffeur, the nightmare chauffeur in it. Anthony James, rather. Sorry. And he was well known at the time for character acting, a very solid character actor. Dub Taylor appears in it. I'm not sure why. His usual sort of cornpone humor kind of it clashes with what this movie is supposed to be. So that was probably a bit of miscasting. Oliver Reed is normally quite brilliant, but
Dub Taylor at the time was appearing nearby at a theater, with Junior Samples doing Private Lives.
Yeah.
And by Noel Coward, and so he was available.
The Odd Couple I could see,
No, they weren't going to slum it.
Yeah,
those are Noel Coward guys. They're hanging out with Paxton Whitehead at the Ontario Shaw Festival. Well,
overall, I thought that Linda Otto did a decent job of casting. I thought she did. She did a great job of sort of snaring some what would normally be exploitable talent, I think.
Yeah. So, Patrick, what did you think of Burnt Offerings, man?
Yeah, stop.
If we represented cinematic greatness as if the greatest films were presidents on Mount Rushmore, and if Burnt Offerings were such a president, Mount Rushmore would be all Thomas Jefferson's. It is
Millard Fillmore.
It is to cinema. Pierce. It would be President Pierce. It would be Franklin Pierce.
The most,
our greatest president.
Of all presidents, yes. Okay.
Yes, our greatest president.
Yeah.
If it were a flavor, it would be one that you would never be able to get out of your mouth.
One of those funky Harry Potter
it has so much,
candies, yeah.
It has so much umami.
Uh-huh.
It has so much umami It's like just opening up a big bag of MSG and eating it with a spoon.
Mm.
Hot railing it, perhaps.
Yeah.
I maybe everything I've said is accurate. I don't know, but what I just did was kind of what I experienced. What I made you try to do, which is interpret what the hell I was talking about,
Right.
is sort of what I experienced while watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bafflingly assembled film, and one of my measures, because some of my favorite artists have made movies that I have not liked, so it's nothing personal. But I'll tell you, I'm very, very, very lenient, I think, on movies. I really am, and I got two things about a movie that's maybe not so hot before I go there and maybe use the B word to describe it. The first thing is that I can't have any desire to see the movie again. That's the biggest one. A movie that's maybe not good is a movie that I don't want to see again. That's my first indicator. My second one is that it has to have been made by people, stem to stern, who all knew better. They had been involved in some great films and had made some great films. And it's at that point that you kind of wonder, what was going on? What were the discussions on the set? The making of Star Trek: The Motion Picture is very clear, talking about the fights between Gene Roddenberry and Harold Livingston, trying to,
Right.
like arguing over what the end was going to be, and problems like that. We don't hear those stories because this didn't have a huge budget.
Right.
We don't hear those stories about burnt offerings.
Right.
I would hope there were lots of fights over how this movie was supposed to go as they were shooting it. What would depress me horribly is if there were none.
Mm. Yeah.
If there were no fights.
I don't.
This had,
I've never seen a deep dive on this movie in terms of who was on set and talking about it. To be honest with you, I've never really gotten.
Yeah, neither have I. I was right on the verge of something. It's not a terrific film. It's not. It's just not. I wish it were. It's got a great title. Anyone who watches Jules' show knows how much I love Oliver Reed, and how much Alan loves Oliver Reed, and Jewel loves Oliver Reed. Big Oliver Reed fans. And and to watch Oliver Reed means you're probably going to watch a lot of bad movies.
But he's not
he at least
necessarily
gets a chance to be interesting.
Yes.
And he's not interesting in this.
It's almost like they were forced to use alternate takes in some cases that weren't.
Gosh, it was
there.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, this is the stuff they shot for coverage.
Mm-hmm.
But they would never swap it out with
right.
The best cuts of the movie. And who the hell would get in a pool with Oliver Reed again after that?
Seriously.
Nobody.
Not his wife.
I mean, boy, she goes for the Wendy Torrance Award with that one.
Right. And there needed to be more to the illustration. It needed to be colored in some way. It needed to be probably a little more nuanced because of the type of story it is, I would think, too. Less cello, less cello.
I mean, I'm thinking in my mind of people, maybe what they would say in trying to defend the movie. And I think I would hear the word atmospheric a lot.
Yes.
And atmosphere has to be more than people not saying anything, staring at each other while a Bob Cobert clarinet or oboe kind
Yeah.
of warbles in the background. I mean, I
Right.
love those things,
Yes.
but suspense is where you see the old thing Hitchcock talked about, where you see the bomb under the desk,
Right.
but the people at the desk don't know about the bomb.
Right.
There's no bomb under the desk.
Yeah.
Or if there is, we don't know about it. Or if we know about it, we don't really care.
Yeah, it's not a very. It's a it's an Amcam M80. It isn't a bomb that's going to blow the house up.
I wasn't going to go this far talking about this movie because I love Dark Shadows. And if you are a fan of this movie, write into Jewel, make a video, write into Jewel, and tell us why. Not because you're going to be in for a fight or something,
No.
but because I think it needs a good, strong advocate. And if you are a good, strong advocate, we welcome you. You might give us an entirely different way to look at this film. And wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
Now, I do like this movie, so I'll defend it here a bit.
Okay, so
Oh,
Jewel, now's your chance.
Well, before I do, I'll get to the cons of it first, because those are easy
Okay.
to point out. But
Con.
I will get to the pros. Dan Curtis is ripping off himself here with Night of Dark Shadows a bit, at least the ending too, more so the ending.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, once
sure.
it gets going, yeah.
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 And I think too, I have again, this is the next part is my opinion. I think Dan Curtis read the book, and I think he agreed to make, in my opinion, honestly, I think he made the movie and thought, I need to make this to the degree of Night, because he probably thought he never lived to see his cut come to life. And here's the thing, he wasn't wrong in that sense.
This is a possibility. Yes, I can see that.
You know what I mean? I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. Now,
It's not a bad take though. It's particularly after.
It's a good perspective.
yeah. Now, my pros of this movie, I really love the camera work here. Dan Curtis is showing off from a cinematography standpoint. I love the dream hearse nightmare stuff. That is really psychologically well done. Betty Davis, she's not, her role in this movie I don't necessarily love, because they don't make her matter enough by the time they kill her off. But I will say I did like the fact that they made her a suspect in trying to kill the kid off. But it's like, no, the house is just cursed. It's haunted. You get the sense of dread when you're coming up to the house. It's like, what's up with this place? Because the real catcher is 900, they charge them $900 for the whole thing, like $900 to rent it. And they even ask, what's the catch? And it's like, it's almost like they're talking as an audience at first, and it's like not as just characters in the movie, which it gives that sort of realistic feel. And I think Dan Curtis did a good job on that aspect too. I do like this movie because you see people slowly become, not just slowly, but becoming very possessed by something you can't honestly see, and that does build the terror. The pool sequence with Oliver Reed was very well executed, and it brings that terror, like, oh my god, he's going to kill his own kid, which is terrifying. But it's all set up by the woman opening the music box in the room too. I think that's one of the most important aspects too. Alan's right. Bob Cobart is sort of ripping off himself too, with a touch of DS music here or there. But I do think from a cinematography standpoint, this movie does stand out very well, because Dan does a good job of Oliver Reed somewhat redeeming himself by saving his son, the kid that plays his son. He shuts off the gas, he breaks the window, and he does try to leave. But we do get the sort of drawback is, and you see it coming, you see the Night of Dark Shadows ending coming. I think that's what somewhat hurts this movie too. As somebody who likes this movie, there are flaws in it that do hurt it. There are too many things you somewhat like the grandmother getting sick. Not the grandmother, the aunt getting sick in her bed. They sort of telegraph that to him, in my opinion. I wish they wouldn't have telegraphed it too much. I think one day you see Betty Davis, she's fine, and you should have just not seen her again. Then she's like, wait, what's happened to her? Like, what happened? And you're not really sure, and it's the house making her sick somehow, because that's sort of the idea with sort of Night of Dark Shadows. Quentin is slowly becoming possessed by Charles Collins. With The Shining, Jack Nicholson's character gets tormented by the ghost and turns and tries to kill his family. In Burnt Offerings, you don't necessarily have just a ghost tormenting. You have literally, you're bringing a ghost back to life, and that's where Dan is also taking from Night of Dark Shadows 2 with the whole Angelique aspect.
Yeah, these are tropes that he has often used. For instance, the whole idea of the music box, of course, is a Dark Shadows.
Yeah, music box.
It's totally a Dark Shadows trope. The idea of possession, of course, is something that they created and used an awful lot based on the inspiration of classic literature, and it works on Dark Shadows quite well. I think part of the reason why the tropes don't work here is because there isn't a lot of depth to the characters in the screenplay. Dan Curtis had a lot to do with this screenplay, I think. And that, there's no Sam Hall here. There's no Gordon Russell here. There's no,
Ron, God bless him, Sproat.
You're right, but he also uses who's the sci-fi writer that he uses a lot, or the horror?
William Nolan.
A lot, right? There are several that he uses throughout, and Matheson. He used Matheson quite a bit, and Matheson knew how to write a screenplay.
Boy, I'll tell you, a Dick Matheson polish on this sure would have helped it.
I think so too, because I think he would have written dialogue that would have served the characters better.
Well, and that guy knows how to do a haunted house story.
Mm-hmm.
If you read Hell House, Jesus Christ, that's a scary book.
Yes.
And I do think you get the sense that here too, you do get the sense that the house is evil. They do get that across at least. I do think too, before you see things go to shit, you do see a loving relationship between Oliver Reed's character and the boy, and the wife too. But then you see this quick turn of holy shit, they're becoming different. Especially the adults are becoming different people almost.
Reed almost has to carry the load on that, and unfortunately, I think it becomes too magnified in him. Because Karen Black's character doesn't seem to struggle with it as much. Yeah. It's like, poo-poo, instead of having some kind of an internal struggle going on where her personality is being attacked.
Oliver Reed playing a vaguely sensitive character is a weird bit of casting to begin with. And I realize, and I'm not making the ha-ha here. I'm going to be very serious what I'm saying. This movie is an autistic nightmare, because you could take, I really mean this, you could take photographs of Oliver Reed apologetic and regretful, and you could take photographs of Oliver Reed furious and fuming, and ask the most intuitive,
which is which?
Like which is okay. In which one is he contrite, and in which one is he pissed off?
Right.
And I think they'd have a 50-50 chance.
Yes, I agree. And again, I think he doesn't have a lot to work with in the dialogue. To give him clues as to why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I think too, they're not at times. They're relying, especially like certain sequences, like the pull sequences. They're not so much relying on dialogue. They're relying on physical work of Oliver Reed drowning the boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Well, that's
generating that, just
Yeah.
generating that through an action that might not be sustained or justified or built. It might not be properly.
It wasn't built right.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It's subtle.
It's like
why
when you
is this
write
happening?
when you write a play, a stage play, you have to build in what's happening, the conflict. Is it internal? Is it external? Why? When? How does that form what's happening in the character's mind? How do you show that without indicate? And there's a lot of indication in this too. It's almost like, okay, so today you're gonna come down the staircase and we're gonna do a close-up shot with a fisheye lens, and you're going to be terrified. And that's it. You're just going to be terrified. Don't worry, we'll plug it in later.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. Just to be, sympathetic to the actors, I think, because you've got actors who know how to perform in this movie.
Generality is the death of art.
Mm-hmm. Just do this.
Stanislavski.
Or and as forceful as Dan Curtis could be, I can see him doing that. Just do that.
Oh, yes, I can. You want something to be scared about? Look at the end of this golf club.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could see him doing that on the set,
mm-hmm.
thinking he's Sam Peckinpah, and no, he's just a bully with a golf club. And that's besmirching Mr. Curtis. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that.
But that's sort of an he obviously did. I mean, his personality was incredibly forceful and could be, and could be terrifying. People have said so. So, and if he was on a schedule and a budget and a time frame, and again, we talked about alternate takes, or that sort of thing. So I think there might have been some external things working against this movie as well, other than just,
Be interesting if a couple of weeks after the movie came out, if Curtis were standing at the tail of the pup, waiting for his hot dog, and James Aubrey's in line with him, and they have this dialogue about, so Jim, did you see Burnt Offerings? Yes, I did. Jim, I got to tell you one thing. Maybe you were right.
Yeah.
Maybe you were right. Maybe I should make a war picture.
And do it for television. Not
for TV.
Not for cinematic release.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, like you guys talk about no build up. There's things they could have done to sort of, other than opening a music box and then crazy things happen. Are there things they could have done differently? Sure. From a film standpoint, I would have shot the sequence between the husband and, instead of the husband and wife in the pool, the husband looks out the window and sees somebody who looks like his wife, and he's like, she's not there, and he sees another man, and then slowly you have this haunting happening. But they don't do that, and I do think from a story text standpoint, that is a mistake. I do love the physicality of this movie. It's really well done. Is it a great movie? No, it's not a movie that's.
Yeah, I think the physicality needs to be more motivated by, or built. Again, the build-up that has to happen. That word keeps coming into my mind. But also, I kept watching, when I was watching this movie, I thought, this really needs the Night Gallery / Twilight Zone touch of the way that, the kind of writing that would make this kind of ghost story really move. Getting back to the idea of the screenplay.
There are two bad movies from the 70s that I really prefer to this, and I think this movie maybe could have learned a few lessons from. One is the Sentinel,
Okay.
about the creepy thing upstairs,
Yes.
and the building's full of witches, which where
Mhm.
have we seen that before? And but it is bad good fun.
Mhm.
And the other one is The Legacy with Catherine Ross and Roger Daltrey. Do you remember that?
Yes, and
The
who
Ring.
but Roger Daltrey?
I know, yeah. And Roger has that's a really scary death by pool.
Uh-huh.
Because suddenly there's just the surface of the pool is like glass after he has swam under it.
Yes. Yes.
And
that is a terrifying thing. That's a claustrophobia that people can identify with. It's a nightmare type of scenario.
but those are both, despite all of the terrible things going on in them, I think still pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have the high polish integrity of The Changeling. Speaking of George C. Scott,
Right.
which is an amazing movie, but nonetheless, I think it's very good. I think it feels like this movie is hovering near that, but it's almost like that language had not quite been invented,
Mm-hmm.
or had been invented on Night Gallery, but maybe people didn't want to go there again.
Right.
I like it when they go there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about quality storytelling, and I think Dan Curtis, who
Quality
enjoyed quote
storyteller.
unquote ripping off classic literature, why not continue that tradition and pay homage to the great writers of television as well? Because this
Sure.
really should have been a television movie, and probably done on that sort of scale, and maybe
It's funny
use,
because given the lack of risks
yeah.
in the movie, meaning just anything that would be visually transgressive or jewel shocking,
Right.
genuinely shocking, it falls short of that, and that's just a thing. But I think you make very, very, very good points, and I'm gonna go back and watch the movie with them in mind.
Yeah. I do think it's a movie that Dan Curtis could Dan Curtis have put a little more thought into? Yeah, hell yeah. But I also think there are some good moments in the movie. One of the best moments is when Oliver Reed's character is gardening and he sees the guy pull up. I think that sequence is just creepy as hell.
The nightmare stuff is I think they could have, the nightmare stuff really had potential, I think, to be used a little bit more as a little bit more connective tissue there, because that was interesting. Like I say, the guy that played the chauffeur was fantastic. He was creepy, scary, and this was a childhood nightmare that was revisited in Oliver Reed's character's adulthood. So yeah, there's huge potential in that.
Yeah. What's you guys' favorite scene from a storytelling standpoint, or favorite character from a storytelling standpoint?
Burgess Meredith. I gotta say, I mean, he's able to make every word just drip with implication.
He's very good at that, even when directed in sort of a melodramatic fashion, But yes, he's fantastic. I still like what I just talked about, this chauffeur character, and this nightmare, and how it connects to everything, and how it should connect to everything somehow, and doesn't quite do that. It's just sort of exclusive to Oliver Reed's character, rather than becoming something that maybe is way more connected to the house than we know, or that we're let to know. So that whole thing, and the idea that he has no dialogue but has this power in this man's mind, right up to the end of the movie, he pops up again out of nowhere. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I thought that, ironically, that was the centering on that nightmarish character I thought that might have been a really interesting thing.
Would he be an Uber driver today?
Yeah, probably.
An honest question.
An Uber hearse.
My God. My favorite character is the little boy. I really enjoyed his. He does a really good job bonding with, connecting with Oliver Reed. They had really great chemistry in this movie. I enjoyed it very much. Favorite scene, guys?
I guess the drowning scene. In terms of an effective piece of storytelling, really grabbed me. Made me pay attention and made me wonder, honestly, what's going to happen next. There was suspense, and it gave the overall story suspense because suddenly we had this hook of danger, and we spent the whole rest of the movie doing the proper thing, which is waiting for that hook to tug us. Yeah.
When is it going to happen again? When is it going to happen again? Yeah. And it kind of gets blunted a little bit, but it's that particular scene. You're right, is I think in relief to that idea that it does grab you, and also Jewel, in terms of the camera work, yeah, I think that the camera work, aside from whatever else, is interesting, and it's really kind of Dan Curtis's signature to use those low angles.
He loves that. He loves people carrying trays.
Yes.
This is a big movie for trays.
And it's also that child's perspective thing going on, which Curtis is inserting himself into the fear of the piece. It's like this scared me as a kid. This is, this da-da-da, and it's that kind of thing. He does that. Obviously does it in House and Night quite frequently as well, and in other pieces that he's directed and filmed.
Is it childhood, or does he have fear of becoming a little person?
Yeah,
because he shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I think he was a larger than life person, at least as an adult. But as a child, I think he was easily scared, and thrilled to the scare, at least according to his attitude towards the classic horror films that he watched as a kid. So
yeah.
My favorite scene is when the gas is on and Oliver Reed's trying to kick down the door and finally does. Very creepy to see the little boy laying there, because I thought they were going to kill him off right here. Something that shocked me is that they didn't kill him off at that point. But maybe they thought it would be too much at that point, too. I can understand that. I actually give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. What do you guys think?
That's good. I'm giving it a 5. 4.
Yeah, I think I'd give it a 5. And because of some of the things that you mentioned, there's certain strengths in it that could have been exploited more. I think that's the issue that I have with it. Not that it couldn't have been, but that it just kind of fell a little short because, I still will lay it in terms of screenwriting. I think has a lot to do with that. No Gordon Russell, no Richard Matheson type guidance.
It's 5, but the movie still has an effect on me. It's 5 because, and I mean this, it's halfway to a decent movie.
What it could be, right?
Yeah,
should be.
Yeah.
Especially considering the potential with the
that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, just those elements. Just watching the names in the opening credits alone. I mean, Dub Taylor, come on.
Yeah.
That you're in for something cool.
Yeah.
With Jewel.
I
pity the fool.
Is there anything you guys want to add before we go?
Nope, and that's the rule.
All right, guys.
What are you doing tomorrow night, Jewel? I just got to know.
I'm doing 1841 Parallel Time with Chloe Thomas.
Who's Chloe Thomas?
Some woman who's a Dark Shadows fan. She's been on my channel a couple times now.
Yeah, I've seen her name.
Yes.
Yeah. Really, again, I'm really excited to talk about 1841. It's really good, really.
Yes, I know, Jewel. I know. I watched every episode and did one of these every episode of 1841 Parallel Time.
I know you, me, and Gordon. Yeah. So fun.
Speaking of which, we should do another episode of DS sometime.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, let's pick an episode for Saturday. How's that?
I have an episode. Hold on a second, see if I can get the number of it real quick. Yeah. Hold on. Almost there. It's the episode in which Tom Jennings is introduced, because a lot of things are happening in that episode. Did a podcast on that episode with music, doing.
That's very funny, Tom. Wait, now is this the episode where Tom is the handyman at Nicholas's? And they have all the comedy about the getting into the basement. Why do you think I have a club in there?
Yes, exactly.
I don't know. Your bedroom life's your business.
Really. Don't go in there. That kind of stuff. But it also has the transition into when the audience is suddenly aware that the new vampire is going to be Angelique first. The first.
Yeah.
And also thing with Vicky being kidnapped and missing and all this sort of thing.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot of transitional stuff going on in that episode. It's also the episode after which they all got together in a big group and Ron Berry interviewed them, because they mentioned the howling of the dogs, which starts that episode off, and they're in the woods and all that sort of thing is happening there. And of course, that's the beginning of the end for Tom, and the beginning of his brief but rather interesting foray as a kabuki erotic vampire, which was to me was as a kid watching that was like, wow, what's this?
Yeah,
it was so much fun. So it's episode 554.
554. Where are you?
Yep,
let's do it.
All right, I'll see you guys Saturday night. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound will be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Collins Port After Dark, will be in the description box. You guys have a good night and take care.
Thank you.